Hi, it's Mrs. Cox with the second part of our Winter Landscapes Art Challenge, and I'm going to show you how I had a go. Just going to share my screen. Okay, so the first thing you have to do if you want to do this challenge is choose a tree. So you could, and it'd be fantastic if you did, go out and have a look on the streets or in a park and pick a tree with no leaves. And that would be great because yours would have its own shape. Or you could do a search on the internet and find a tree that you like the shape of, or you could use this one. And I just went for a walk, and about 2 minutes from my house, there's this big tree which is in the back garden of one of these two houses, and I just took a picture of it because I thought it was quite an interesting shape and it's got no leaves on at all. Now, when we're learning to draw, and I should start by saying I thought I was terrible at drawing at school, and it didn't come easily. So I didn't try. And I just thought for years and years that I was rubbish at art. And then I had a go and I found I wasn't brilliant, but actually I really enjoyed drawing and sketching things. And I certainly wasn't as bad as I thought I was. So here's some hints. We need to learn to look closely at what we're drawing and think about the main lines. Now, for this challenge, ideally, you would use paper and a pencil, but if you haven't got a pencil at home, try a pen. And the good thing about drawing with a pen is you can't rub it out, so you've just got to keep going. And I tried with a pen. I wasn't very happy, but I'll tell you what I did, and I think it's quite a good experience to just keep going. So any pencil or pen you can find at home. Draw the main lines first, then add the detail. Remember, even proper artists that get paid for a living usually think when they're in the middle of doing a painting that it's rubbish. So you have to keep going and you will get better. Okay, so look closely at your tree and draw the main lines first. And this is my first go, and I have to say, I really wanted to screw this one up and throw it away, because when I looked at what I'd drawn and I looked at the tree, I've hardly got it at all. So really, this trunk is too long, and these branches should start much lower down. So mine's kind of all squashed up there, whereas this one is quite long. So I nearly gave up. And then, do you know what? I thought, well, I'm telling the children to keep going, so I think I'd better keep going. So the next thing I did was to make those main branches and the trunk thicker. And I just used a pen, and quite scribbly really. So I was really influenced by David Hockney, who creates texture by using quite rough lines. So I used quite rough lines to make my trunk and branches thicker. And then I added the smaller branches. I wasn't quite sure this was right, but I thought I'll keep going. And then I filled in the twigs. And I started, like this top one, just putting little lines coming off each branch. And it just looked really wrong. And what I realised was when I did it a bit more randomly and had lots of lines coming off in different directions, it looked a lot better. So I was kind of learning as I went along, really. And then once I'd put all the little twigs in, I kind of had another look at it, and I made a lot of the small branches thicker, again with quite scribbly lines. This is not not very precise. It's quite rough, really. And this is my finished tree. And I think if I look at it, I think that's quite a good tree. I think you can tell what it is. You can tell it's meant to be a tree in winter. But if I look at it and I look at the original photograph, I can see some ways it could improve. And I wonder if you could got any suggestions for if I wanted to do it again, how could I make it better? If you're there with a grown-up, or if there's more than one of you there, if you're there with your brothers or sisters, why don't you see if you can come up with some ideas for how to make it better? I can think of 3 things. Can you think of anything? Okay. Well, I think I could, first of all, look really carefully at the shape and get it right at the beginning. And then I think if I look at mine, I quite like the rough pattern on the trunk, but actually this trunk, because it's silhouetted against the sky, it's almost black. So I could try spending longer making the trunk and the main branches even darker. And then if I look at this around here, there's so many tiny twigs. It almost looks like a feather. And mine's a little bit, I think I haven't got enough tiny twigs on. So I could spend longer filling in the twigs. So that's my idea for how I could improve it. If you've got any other ideas for how that one could be improved, I would love it if you sent them to your teacher and then maybe I could have another go. So this is your challenge. The first challenge, and I think everybody can probably do this on their own, but you could all do it at the same time, is to find a tree or use my tree and draw a tree in winter. The second challenge is to add different marks and lines to put the detail in. So draw your tree and then maybe have your trunk with a texture and your branches and your twigs all looking different. And then the third challenge, we always have a red hot chili challenge. Most of our older children can do this, but I know some of our younger children love to do the more grown-up challenges. Can you write a paragraph explaining how you drew your tree, maybe giving instructions to someone else to draw a tree, and also say, how has your tree been influenced by David Hockney? Is your tree like his artwork? We can't wait to see your artwork and see what you do with our family tree challenge.